Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to the third session in today's RECOVR Symposium. This session is asking how will extended reality shape the future in healthcare, mindfulness, and rehab. And just to help situate you, we are streaming to YouTube live from FourSpace. We're also located here on unceded Indigenous lands in Tchagé, Montreal. We're also running, if you're just joining us, we're running this event as a live stream Zoom meeting, and your comments and questions are really important. So if you have any of those, just pop those into the chat, and we'll do our best to read those out a little bit later. Those of you here in the space, you know the drill. If you have any comments or questions, we'll bring the microphones around to you. Okay, it's now my pleasure to pass it back. Master of Science in Athletic Therapy here from Concordia, former 3MT competitor, and also CEO and founder of RECOVR Sports. Back to you, Steven. Thanks.
Thank you. That introduction seems to get longer every time, so I appreciate it. I hope you're all well nourished and rehydrated. Thank you for sticking around to the second half of the day. So as he said, we're going to do another session of more talking and listening and then some questions. And then the rest of the day is going to be open floor. Everything's going to get moved. And we're going to have all the demos you haven't had time for during lunch, and then the tennis matchups as well. So without further ado, our first presenter is Dr. Harmehr, is an assistant professor in the Department of Medicine, Division of Geriatric Medicine at McGill University, and an associate scientist at St. Mary's Research Center. She is also a collaborator scientist with the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. As the director of the Geri Tech Innovations Research Lab, her work focuses on the design and implementation of novel technology-based interventions, including virtual reality, to improve the health and well-being of older adults across care settings. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Make sure. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you so much for having me. So my title for my presentation today is really largely around virtual reality in healthcare. Where are we? Where are things going? You know, what are the current needs? And hopefully some of the opportunities for the future. So with that, can you hear me okay? Oh, you can, perfect. You can see it there as well. Excellent. So I think as I speak to anyone, whether you work in healthcare or you don't, it goes without saying that our healthcare system currently is exceedingly overburdened. We have a very high level of need, not enough resources, personnel, time, space, you name it. And so in the midst of all of this, how do we ensure that we can provide care and support to individuals that need it? This level of need is actually going to expand as our population gets older. We have a lot more older Canadians and older individuals around the world. And so one of the things that my colleague often talks about, Dr. Martin Curley, is stay left, shift left, 10x, which essentially is the paradigm or the thought that we need to take care, first of all, not only when the person is unwell, we need to focus a lot on preventative care. So really helping people live healthy, age healthy, and continue to do, you know, all of their activities, their functioning in the space of their choice, typically at home. The other component that goes into 10x, stay left, shift left, 10x, is the fact that we need to bring care to where people are. So the model of providing care only in the hospital or with family physicians and so forth is very limited because there's a large supply-demand issue, accessibility issues, cost, travel, and so forth. So we really have to think about innovative ways and methods that we can provide care to individuals irrespective of where they are. So that includes, you know, in their homes, in long-term care and rehabilitation spaces and so forth. And that's largely what I'm hoping to base today's talk around, and how VR or XR can fit into this and provide one specific mean to provide this care. We're not saying VR or XR is going to be able to do that for all populations and all needs, but it can be one of the tools that we have. So why virtual reality? I think this group has heard a lot of talks today, so you're a little bit more well-versed into, you know, the benefits, and you know, the opportunities as well as the limitations of VR or XR. But also why VR specifically from my standpoint. I work within geriatrics. I'm an assistant professor within geriatrics, and that's the population I work closely with. And so oftentimes when I speak about older adults and I talk about VR or any technology, robots, sensors, etc., people go, that doesn't really fit together. How does that work? Or do these people even want to interact with VR? How does that go about? So I really want to talk a little bit about, why VR, specifically for some of the work that we're doing. And I talk about VR, when I speak about VR today, it's really about immersive virtual reality that we're working with for these studies in populations. So this is, a VR headset with audio and visual 360, and that's typically what we're using. So for all of the studies and the work that I talk about today, that's what I mean by VR. So when we talk about VR and older adults specifically, why do we think this is a good fit? Well, first of all, older adults have unique needs, so they have, they need higher levels of care and more complex care. They also have accessibility issues, right? So traveling, oftentimes, especially as they may need more care, they have to coordinate with a caregiver, family member, or friend to also help with their travel needs. There's also kind of other limitations that they have. So, accessing long wait times and so forth. How do they get the timely care that they need? Well, VR is a technology that's very portable. Yes, there's a digital literacy component. I'll talk about how we've gone about mitigating that, and we co-design with the older adult. But it has potential. It's a tool that we can use. The other reason VR works well is because we've seen that the experiences you have in real life are very similar to that in VR. So that means if I'm standing at the edge of a cliff and I'm looking down, my heart rate's going to go up. I'm going to feel a little sweaty. You're going to get that same experience physiologically in VR as well. So that really means that you can almost in a way create an experience that will feel very real for them, and they can do it from the comfort of their own home. So those are the reasons. The other thing I just want to mention briefly, since we talk about healthcare, is that Canadians specifically, especially during COVID, with all of the telehealth, we've really been exposed to a lot more technology. Yes, there was a digital divide. There continues to be with older folks using less technology, but we're seeing that that's quickly starting to come together. So they're using more technology than ever before, but they're also open to it. They're also open to it with their own medical care. So more Canadians would like to see increased resources being set aside for technology-based care. And so that tells us there's interest. There's actually, not only do we think VR and other technologies can fit with this population, but they would also like to see that. So that's really positive. The other thing I really like to always touch upon is our medical system and its adoption of technology. So what this lovely figure will show you is that healthcare is one of the furthest behind in terms of adoption of technology. And that's really important because we think about what's already available and what are we really using. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the studies that we've already done. I'm going to be talking about a couple of different studies. I'll go through them a little quickly. Feel free to come chat with me after if you're interested to learn more. And I'll also leave my email and contact information. But essentially, one of the studies that we wanted to do and how we kind of began with VR is we wanted to see if just around the post-COVID, if virtual reality could help individuals, participate in mindfulness activities, and if it could help be almost a way to make it less scary and to make it a little bit more approachable. Because when it's something like mindfulness, we know there's positive effects. We know that people can benefit from it, but it's very daunting to just say, okay, I'd like you to spend 10 minutes meditating or being mindful. What does that mean? How do you start? You can read or watch a YouTube video, but to just sit down in your own home and try to do it, we've all been there and tried, and it's not very easy. So we wanted to use something like VR to help immerse them and provide them with guidance. And this is actually a systematic review that was done talking about how VR and mindfulness can be used and has improved benefits for individuals. So we've actually taken that exact idea, and we did a study. So we did a hybrid study. Either once individuals were involved in the study, they could either choose to be completely remote or in person. And so that meant that over the 4 weeks, twice a week sessions, they could either do it completely from their home, or they could do it with us in person. We had individuals choose about 50-50. And what we found was that there's real benefits to using VR for that immersive experience, and that really helped their mental health and other outcomes. So that was really positive in one of the first studies that we did. Another example I'd like to share with you is the clinical use of VR. So we wanted to see, with a technology like VR, and knowing the fact that our patients, specifically geriatric patients in the work that we do, they experience a lot of stress while they're in the hospital. There's a lot going on, their quality of sleep, anxiety, stress, mood, physical activity, everything really is greatly impacted. So how could we help remove them from the hospital without removing them from the hospital? So how could we help them escape? And so what we did was we designed a 2-day, 15-minute each session VR and music intervention, where individuals that were admitted to the hospital could participate in immersive VR, or the control group was the same music but audio only. And what we wanted to see is, we know there's great benefits to music, but does VR help to increase the benefits that they would experience due to its immersive qualities? And so we just finished the study, and we found that it significantly reduced the amount of pain that they were experiencing. So not only is it helpful, as we've seen with the mindfulness, in helping improve their mental health, but also with some clinical outcomes, pain as well, which is really positive. And this is a very small study with a sample size of 32, or only 32 individuals involved, because it was a feasibility study. So this sets the groundwork for larger work. But what we really wanted to do is, there's not a lot of studies that have actually gone out in the healthcare system and used VR or other technologies and really seen, is it feasible from a clinical perspective as well? So that was really positive. And then one of the other studies that our team is currently doing is using VR at home remotely for individuals with Alzheimer's, which can be a group that experiences psychological and behavioral symptoms of dementia as well. And so what we'd like to do is, in their own home, can we assess the feasibility of something like VR? Because if we're able to do so, we can really design other therapeutic interventions with VR and other technologies to see if we can help improve their behavioral and psychological symptoms. So that's the ongoing study that we have. So I kind of want to bring this all together, because I've talked about 3 very different populations and the work that we're doing. But you might be saying, well, what's the need? Like, where are we at? Where do we need to go? And so the literature right now with VR or XR and healthcare specific to older adults is very, very limited. There's very few studies. Those that we do have are largely pilot studies or case studies. They're not being done in clinical real-world settings, which is what we need data on, so that we can actually know, can we do this, right? When our healthcare team members are already stretched so thin, is this going to add to their day, or is this going to help them? And then what's the impact on individuals? None of these individuals in our studies knew how to use VR. They all came with a blank slate. And so we've been able to design digital literacy, because as you can imagine, when we're doing a study remotely, we really need to help them learn how to use a technology. They may or may not have a caregiver present, but we need to be able to work with either the dyad, the caregiver, and the older adult, or just the older adult, and teach them and actually empower them to use this technology themselves. So that's a unique challenge, but a really rewarding one. And they're incredibly good at learning new technologies. There's definitely a bit of hesitancy, as anyone would have, but I think that's one of the things that's really important to me, is how do we make sure the vulnerable populations or specific groups that need more supports aren't left behind when we talk about new technologies. And that's kind of what's close to my heart, what I like to do. I think some of the other things that are important to identify is, what is the right person or case for us to be using technologies like VR. We don't want to use it with all the populations without giving due consideration. So for example, considering, delirium, cognitive statuses and profiles, who are the right people to use this technology with? That's some of the work that our group is doing as well. And then lastly, creating interventions specifically for them and then validating them in those populations in a real world setting. So what does that mean? it means, if we go into the App Store right now, a lot of the applications and content created is not for specific groups like older adults. So our group goes about identifying, what are we trying to target? What are we trying to improve or help with? And then designing the intervention specifically for that population and testing it. So we're not being able to take, unfortunately, what's already out there because it's not made for them. But being able to create things specifically for them is very, very important. So I think with that, I'm going to say thank you very much, and I'll leave my email there if anyone has any questions. Am I good on time?
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Fantastic. Well done. I think you actually were exactly at the time we talked about, but I wasn't being too picky. Fantastic. So we're going to move right along. So we've got 3 great presentations, and then we'll have some time for some questions. But Dr. Gianluca Bertolizio, hope I got that right, is an I'm clearly getting tired from talking all day, anesthetist in chief. Say that right? Anesthetist in chief? Okay. At Shriners Hospital for Children Canada and an associate professor at McGill University. He holds an advanced training in pediatric anesthesia from McGill and Harvard universities. His international clinical background includes positions at institutions such as the University of Milan, Loma Linda University, and Doctors Without Borders. His academic interests include neonatal cerebral protection, postoperative pain management, and the application of virtual reality in medical education. I'm going to add one thing that I met both of these presenters that you're going to, oh wait, I went in the wrong order, didn't I? You were next. Well, it's fine. Today's the day of whatever. You were supposed to be next. Sorry to the Force Space people. I switched the order up on my paper here. But we're going to bring up Dr. Gianluca next. Come on. Sorry about that. You were next, sorry. You get to finish this out.
Okay.
My apologies.
Can you hear me? I hope so.
Yeah, we might need a second for them to adjust because I just threw a curveball.
Sure. Well,
Sorry, Force Space.
First of all, thank you for the invitation, Steve. Thank you to the Concordia University and the RECOVR for this opportunity. It's great to be here and talk about a topic that I've been studying for a few years. So as you see, I'm an anesthesiologist, so I'm going to talk about medical training and education, mainly in anesthesia, but this applies in many different medical fields. Perfect. Before starting, I'm going to show you a VR module that was designed with funds from the McGill University and with the help of a local company, iGotcha Media. And in the next 10 minutes or less, I will talk about, I'm going to give you a history about medical education. And I'm going to also talk about how extended reality fits in this new field. Oh, I'm sorry. So let's start from the beginning. So medical teaching is as old as medicine itself. You can find clay models of human anatomy. They are dated 2,000 years before Christ. You can find plasters that were used in obstetrics in the 18th century. I want to focus on the last century, more or less. And before 1970s, there were 3 main ways to provide teaching. Classrooms, which are still used today, even maybe a little bit less popular. Labs, anatomical labs in particular, such as with animals, plasters, as I said, or mannequins, and mentoring. Mentoring is still fundamental in our profession, in education, but it has 2 main problems. Number one, the mentor has to balance between teaching the trainee and taking care of the patients and the patient safety. Second problem, there are some critical events, very rare, yet very dangerous. They have a high risk of morbidity and mortality. And it is very hard to teach these situations on the spot. Luckily, in the 70s, we introduced simulations in our educational toolbox. This is why, so in 1965-68, we have the first mannequin, Mariana, from the Laird institution, which was used to teach to mount a rescue breath and release the airway obstruction. We used mannequins to teach basic anesthesia knowledge, how to treat arrhythmias, or as you can see, how to perform life-saving maneuvers, such as the cardiopulmonary resuscitation. And indeed, we then developed mannequins in such a way that they look like real people. They can have blood pressure, heart rate, respiration, sounds. And we can build up a full simulations with other team workers and make it like one of those crises that I was talking about. And these type of scenarios, which are called high fidelity simulation, are very engaging. People feel like they are really working like in a real crisis, as you can see here. Well, maybe not everybody, but in general, yes, everybody is very engaged, and this scenario has two important advantages. For number one, you can teach and train technical skills. Here you're gonna see how to perform a transesophageal echo or an intubation. And then the second one is how you can teach what we call not technical skills: leadership, communication, problem solving, situation awareness, resource utilization, which has been shown to be the leading cause for morbidity and mortality in emergency and in anesthesia in particular. And it wasn't a case that we introduced simulations in the 70s. We learned this from the aviation. During the aviation industry, there were few accidents. Here I'm showing one of them. On December 29, 1972, the Eastern Air Flight 401 crashed during its landing in Miami. This happened because the entire crew was distracted by a faulty burnout lamp. They didn't realize the autopilot got disengaged. They lost altitude. The tower failed to communicate timely and properly, and this caused 100 fatalities. So the similarities between aviation and anesthesia are very easy to make. Every morning we wake up with our nursing and surgical team. We set up everything to take off safely. Then we fly throughout the case, most of the time in a sunny, boring day, sometime into the storm. By the end of the case, we always try to land safely. Then the 2000 arrived. And then the computer technology improved in such a way that then we had computer-based simulation and teaching. Here you can see how we can teach how to use the anesthesia machine. The nice part of it is that we can use the same software, computer-based software, and we can attach them to our tools, such as the bronchoscope or a transesophageal echo, as I mentioned before. And you can learn and teach skills that require a lot of dexterity. And then in 2010, something else happened. We added the introduction of extended reality. You are all familiar with the term. Extended reality covers three major technology: augmented, mixed, and virtual reality, here intended as immersive VR. And I want to show you some example how we can use this technology in medicine. So let's start with augmented reality. I talk about anatomical labs. Well, now you have your labs everywhere. You can have your 3D anatomical study with just a mannequin, and you can dissect your mannequin in the way you like. And I talk about how we teach with screen-based and probes, how we teach cardiac echography. Now with augmented reality, we can superimpose the anatomy and then understand the anatomy in relation with our images and our probe. If you look at the mixed reality, now we have digital patients, as in this case, lying on a real ward, which is the operating room, and we can play with them. One of the interesting application in anesthesia in particular is this one. When we had to learn how to put a catheter in one of the big veins in the neck, we use a mannequin, as you can see here. But then with the augmented reality, we can also see the anatomies that is in relation with the needle pathway, which is very important because here you have the lungs, you have the arteries, so very critical organs and tissues. But probably the big player in this game is, as we already heard, is virtual reality. For those who like movies, Matrix is pretty famous, and the other is a Netflix series, which was available a few years ago. And virtual reality, and as again, I'm intending immersive VR, can be delivered in 3 ways. You have 360 videos, very helpful to educate patients and also to learn how to better communicate with patients from the healthcare standpoint. And then you have a full digital VR environment. This is a colleague of mine who made this software to teach trauma teams. And then you can also add an haptic device to try to teach technical skills. In this case, it was a regional anesthesia block. But probably the most fascinating application of VR is to see if it can replace high fidelity simulation, the one that I showed you before in the video. And why do we want to do that? Because high fidelity simulation has some important limitations. First of all, space. Simulation centers require a lot of space. Just imagine to build up the same operating room in a simulation center. They need a lot of people, organizer, cleaner, scheduler, and then you need actors if you want to train a specific person on a specific task. And it can be very crowded around the mannequin, and not everybody is completely fully engaged, as we saw in the video. Another limitation is access. We saw this during the pandemic, but in general, simulation centers don't work after hours. On the left, you can see this distribution of simulation centers here in Canada, the red dots, and on the right, the blue dots represent the hospital in our country. Some of them very far from our simulation centers, difficult to access. Third, cost. Simulation centers can cost, to set up a simulation center can cost up to $1.6 million. Maintaining a simulation center can cost up to $300,000 per year. So in this regard, VR can be extremely helpful. First of all, you don't need to have a simulation center to build your operating room. You do it virtually, and then you just need a decent sized room to your proctors and your trainee, and you can run the scenario. And it looks like that VR is cheaper, also cheaper than high fidelity simulation. I'm not saying it is cheap, it's less expensive, about 1/3 of it, still very costly, at least to start with. And if you are wondering how, let's say, a critical crisis scenario will look like comparing to the video that I showed you before, this is what we built.
First time in this OR? I'm Andy, the RT. That's Dr. Solomon, the surgeon. Sophie's our scrub nurse today, and Olivia is circulating. You're in good hands.
Okay. Good morning, team. So I'm Brian. I'm one of the anesthesia residents. I'm just going to take a peek at the chart.
Okay, you can see here, this is what the trainee sees, which is something that we don't see when we do high fidelity simulation. On the bottom, you can see what the proctor sees and the way he unfolds the scenario according to the script. He can change the vital signs, he can trigger dialogues, he can give a medication according to the trainee's orders. And then we have our trainee walking around and try to understand what's going on.
Okay.
Let's get ready. I have a tennis game this afternoon. Andy, have you started the antibiotic?
Yes, the antibiotic is going in.
Is it?
When do you play tennis?
At 4 p.m. So I want to be out of here by 2?
Yeah, you'll make it for sure.
Andy,
I also play tennis. We should play someday.
Andy, just to make sure.
Yeah, why not? Can you pass me 4
You
mosquitoes?
said the antibiotic went in.
Sure, 4 mosquitoes.
Yes.
Can you tell me what antibiotic you gave, Andy? Because I don't see it on my chart, and I didn't give it.
For full disclosure, we don't always talk about tennis, sometimes golf. But anyway, so it looks interesting, nice. So these are the potential advantages of VR. Doesn't need, there is no restriction in terms of location, time, personal. You can do it anytime you want. You can modify it according to the trainee goals and level. And in theory, you can also collect data easily. So for VR and for extended reality in general, in medical education, we are probably somehow here in the peak of our excitation and expectation. However, we're gonna see, actually we're already seeing, that we don't have a one-fit-all new technology that can cover all the aspects of medical education. And I always like to quote this book that I read a few years ago, which is, I think, is very important. Whenever you introduce a new technology, you should use it at the best effect. What does it mean? It means that we have a number of tools in our educational toolbox. Before using them all without a specific goal, we should decide what is the learning framework that we want to achieve for our trainees. What are the objectives that we want to cover? Are we teaching not technical skills? Are we teaching technical skills? And when we decide this, how are we going to measure that the module, well, our tool works? Are we measuring how fast a trainee does a bronchoscopy, or how well communicates with the team? And then finally, we can decide what technology fits our needs. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. I hope I've been within the 15, and thank you so much.
So you intentionally played that video because at 4 o'clock we're playing tennis here. That was the point. Everything was planned, except for the fact that you were not supposed to go next. It was this person who was supposed to go before that. So my apologies. But Nico and me have known each other for quite some time now. We shared a beer together a while ago, and he was somebody that helped early on, just kind of direct me a little bit in the conversation when I was still early in this journey in XR. So it's a pleasure to have him, and a little bit of a full circle moment as well today. So he's the CEO and founder of Kinesics XR, a PhD candidate as well. Congratulations, by the way. So I haven't seen you since, at McGill University, with over a decade of clinical experience in neurological rehabilitation and a strong entrepreneurial background in medtech innovation. He focuses on immersive technologies and digital biomarkers in neurorehabilitation. Today's session, he's going to explore the progression from video game-based interventions to validated digital therapeutics and neurorehabilitation. It examines the clinical application of virtual and augmented reality technologies, highlighting scientific evidence, case studies, and practical implementation strategies. The presentation underscores the role of immersive medical software of enhancing therapeutic outcomes and advancing rehabilitation practices. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation to be part of this panel. So yeah, go ahead directly to the presentation to take time to show what we were working on. So, well, first of all, frame this presentation in the present and the future of the digital medicine and rehab, where digital therapeutics is the concept that you should follow and integrate in what you are doing if you are interested in this. Basically, specific in what we were talking about through the create cost-effective new digital tools for people who suffer, in this case, neurological disorders or other disorders. And in this case, I go through the applicability of new immersive technology, and you will see also the evolution of the terminology and the technology. So here, summarize, as a therapist, I'm a physiotherapist who also start to adapt video game to the treatment. So that's the first thing that happened in our world, in the rehab world. We were who start to adapt these video games. Then we start to play with extra games, more focused in the fitness. And then also we were adapting these video games. But right now where we are is where we can introduce our knowledge and all the evidence in the design of the software. So instead to start to adapt video games, we are creating our own video games. But the main part is how we can integrate our clinician knowledge and our expertise in the design of the software, and that is framed also as a summarize in the DTX, or digital therapeutics, that this is like the no pharma space where we're going to navigate together with the pharma and with no pharma, and this is software, and in this case, we can mention the software as a medical device will align with this term. So also to narrow where is the space, there is evidence where is the most the best applicabilities of this technology. So in this systematic review, you can see these three categories where the main one is the management anxiety and pain, eating disorders, and where we start with motor and cognitive rehabilitation. So starting for a few, like an overview of the evidence, you need to know Hoffman. So if you want to learn more about how manage pain and anxiety. So this researcher started from 2004. He created his own serious game to make this distraction, and he proved with magnetic fMRI how this change the focus or distractions can reduce the process of the pain. So basically, it's when you are doing meditation, you focus to breathing. This is how you can change your focus, visual focus, to other things, games or a landscape, and this prove how this also works in your brain. This is the Snow World VR. So this is the very old but effective game. So he proved that this solution helped to reduce pain, specific for burn patient. Then you can see this another other review, systematic review, where also you can see that the majority of the research were validating the applicability of virtual reality in burn patient, and then also they start at that time, 2020, to implement also in other cases like intravenous, lumbar, puncture, and dental applicabilities. Then other company that should know that they are framed in the DTX is Apply VR. So Apply VR is it is the main company who start to develop virtual reality for managed pain, anxiety, where they start, as you see, using phones here when this technology was just starting to apply with phones. And phones, the resolution is not the best one. But they start to use it in patients where suffer different kind of pain, associate for joints, also for organs. So they validate in these two cases with simple games or contemplating landscape, how they can reduce pain. So this is the first trials that they did, but finally they did a specific one to keep validating the technology from hospital to home. So they also are the main company who prove, and they got also the FDA as the virtual reality to manage chronic pain. They validate in a broad way, but then they specifically validated for back pain, specific chronic low back pain. And then just a quick overview. Also, virtual reality is already using and applied in different clinical settings. Intensive care is another line where you can start to apply this technology. We need more studies, of course, like in all these ecosystem and field. But you can see right now the different applicability where they prove right now with a few patients how VR can positive impact in the anxiety and the stress, in the improve sleep quality, and also in cognitive and motor skills. And here, more specific for Neurorehab, this is one of the important systematic review where basically prove that if you combine physiotherapy or conventional treatment plus virtual reality, you will get better result in activity and participation. And also is a key fact where all the studies that introduce or that deliver more than 15 hours of VR complementary to the conventional treatment, they improve this result. So this gave you a baseline to how we're going to deliver this technology and what is the doses that we need to combine with conventional treatment to get this better result, and specific in activity and participation for this review. All right, going the other way. So here, summarized, this is the 6 years of summarize of all the top research that we were integrated in our software. So you can see in the first item, or again, here, all this research validate how virtual reality stimulate neuroplasticity, stimulate the cognitive motor system, perception, action, and specifically this research validate how virtual reality improve motor function in upper limbs, combined, of course, with conventional treatment. Then there is another researcher and research who show the efficacy of virtual reality in attention and memory, function, executive, and spatial skills. 80%, between 70-80% of the stroke survivors suffer spatial issues and nobody take care about it. So what we found that we can combine motor skills, cognitive skills, and also we can integrate all these specific function skills. Then, of course, VR and all the spectrum in virtual reality increase motivation, it's more fun, more engaged. Also, kinesophobia is one of the key things that we saw in a burn patient where they were really like, I can't move, I don't want to move. And then we trick the brain and he started to move like before they didn't. Basically because we tricked the brain in a good way, we put a specific goal and he were engaged to move. And at the same time, we were reducing pain and we were able to measure that actually. Then specifically, virtual reality in Neurorehab, we can apply it to train trunk control, specifically, then all the patients who suffer neglect and they need to integrate one side of the body, this worked really, really well. The embodied concept worked really well. And then it's in our methodology, we create an organization of movement to make it easy to learn how to move and recover this functional activity of daily living. And then we create a 360 gym where you can train coordination, balance, and we combine physical and cognitive activities, exercise to provide to adults. And here you can see what is about the kinesics. This is the system that integrate like the hardware part, and then also this already certified software. So we certify as a software as a medical device class 1. That means that this is a tool that assists therapy, never replace the therapy. This is like let's say like a super elastic band, but with this technology, we achieved to certify this as software as a medical device in Europe, in Canada, and this year we're going to do the FDA to power and engage also therapies and patients with this technology. We develop specific models interconnected, so you have a specific way to improve and progress your exercise, base it in daily living. And if you see, we are using MetaQuest 3. That is one of the best, the best device also, but is one of the device that mix VR and AR. So the result is that mixed reality. So we take the best of the VR with the AR, and now patient can see the digital object and at the same time then they can see the environment. So also pretty critical to know and to understand is this technology, where we apply this, or what is the goal, is same like robotic, virtual reality can increase the intensity of the treatment. In hospitals, patients normally receive only 6% of the day they receive therapy. So the rest of the day, they are on bed, on the chair, doing nothing. So this is how we can change this and increase not only the intensity, also the functional recovery in hospital to accelerate or reduce the length of a stay, but with specific tools. Also, another key part is the motivation and the adherence that based in what we are doing, and all the VR mechanisms help. But more specific, we are doing specific daily living activities. So this is meaningful for the brain, meaningful to transfer what you are doing in the VR and also to do it in the real world. And then in terms of the metrics, here you can see the one of the interaction training that you can do it at home. This is must be supervised. This is in terms of the exercise that you can do. This is pretty new, mixed reality to train. Also reactive skills. Also you can work like a vestibular exercise inside the same exercise. So there's different ways to apply. And here, one of the novel things that we just come up with this and develop is a specific volumetric metric of the center of the hand. So now we are able to track and we create somehow this specific volumetric metric to follow the center of the hands, and we can provide a measure of the trajectory, and we can analyze now the human movement and the human behavior. So this is a mixed reality where you can analyze any daily living activities and define the trajectory, and this is what is my PhD about. I will analyze all these volumetric metrics to define what are the normal movement, and then it's not normal movement, but yeah, there's a lot of things to do in this field with these metrics. And here, finally, I can show you, we focus this in the beginning for stroke, so we integrate all the motor learning concept principles, all the motor control theory, so taxonomy, upper limb, and now we also succeed implementing this technology not only for stroke survivors, also we are applying for burn patients where we prove reduction of pain, gain mobility, and also motivation. So here, this was just the beginning where we start to take out the patient from his bed, clinical bed, and then after 4 weeks, we were able to start to train to trunk control in the border of the clinical bed, and you can see how we did it. We take out from this position where he didn't want to move, and then we gain trunk control. We have a tablet where the therapist can control and personalize the exercise, getting closer, kind of up, down, and we can design a specific exercise for him. Then you will see here after 1 year how we still training, but now lower limbs indirectly doing exercise with the upper limbs. And I don't know if I can play the other videos, but well, exactly. So then the therapy is changing the instruction is how one exercise, we can multiply that for 20. So depend on what you change the instruction, and you can make even power change the exercise. And here, this is the first time that he were able to jump. So we can really push the boundaries of patient, right? Yeah. So yeah, and here is also one success case that we did in Chile. We associate with a telecom, and we were able to create the first virtual reality room for kids with neurological disorders. And right now we implement this in the 14 rehab centers. And we are expecting to replicate this in the world if we can. So yeah, this is super excited to be in this position to share also, engage to whoever want to. And I think the community is here. It's small, but we have a lot of power and strength. So I think we can keep doing this and growing the ecosystem. And here, just to show you where we at, we create kinesics for motor and cognitive. We are developing other solutions, and this is collaborative. We are working with different artists from Chile, from Netherlands, also from Mexico, and from Canada. Thank you.
Well done, everybody. 3:01. That's fantastic. So we've got lots of time. So today
we have been asking everybody the first question, and you're aware of it, has been the question of the day of how XR will shape the future of your sectors. We've done a lot in your presentations of what's been done, so maybe they'll change the question a little bit, and what do you think's coming? What do you think will shape the near future or the long term, whichever one you want to pick, for your individual, topics that you were discussing? Easiest.
Should I start? Yeah. So for our profession, I believe that the big advantages will be to deliver a high quality of education everywhere in the world. I talk about a lot about simulation centers. They are very expensive. Keep in mind that they are not everywhere in the world. We are very fortunate here in North America in general. And deliver these technologies, even the augmented reality, will raise the knowledge in medicine overall everywhere.
Well, I think there is a key concept, and I think we need to combine in this approach of the shape the future in terms there is the device part and then the software part, what we are developing, and we are in the sweet spot where in the sweet maturity of the technology, and right now we have Mixer, the MetaQuest 3 that is showing on Apple Vision Pro, the first XR devices. So now I think this will be evolved naturally from combining all the knowledge and everything what we get from the VR. Now we are getting to the mixed reality, and now what's coming is the AR goggles that Meta is one of the showing the most advanced. So I think naturally it will move into reduce the size, improve also the quality, and all the features that they are showing the mixed reality, they will integrate it in these goggles, AR goggles. And I think AR will be the main focus to make it easy to wear, easy to implement in daily living, and yeah, I think there's forthcoming. Yeah.
That's a really good question. I think what's coming is being able to provide care in diverse settings, to be able to provide personalized interventions, and using technology such as XR to really supplement what the limitations that we have. So whether it's being able to provide, for example, more physiotherapy to patients, so it's more than the 6% of time, or it's providing access to therapy sooner, things of that nature. I think that's what's going to be next in healthcare.
Perfect, fantastic. The other question that I kind of had on my mind, and we tend to be humble as people up here, but I think the three of you are quite successful, and one of the reasons I was excited to have each of you on it. What would you, to some people in this room that maybe aren't as experienced or want to get into this space, what would you attribute your successes to, and any advice that you would give to some younger entrepreneurs or some people that are just, I was talking with some software engineers in the room that are still in school, what would you give, like the journey, what would you attribute to, and what would your advice be?
I don't know if I'm successful, but anyway, so I can tell you in my own experience, I realized that especially in this type of innovation, most of the university work in silos. I've been working on my VR software for almost 3 years, and then I realized that there are other teams doing the same, which is a lot of waste in resources and mental fatigue for no reason. So, as in research and in general, sharing knowledge is always a gift. It's not, it doesn't penalize. So that would be my main suggestion. And the second suggestion is that whenever you have an idea that you think that it is absolutely innovative, start to Google it. If nobody is thinking about that, there is something wrong. Either you are using the wrong search, or it is not working as well as you think.
Or you're going to be a billionaire.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I think the main and first recommendation is like has this collaborative approach. So myself, I am a physiotherapist. I dream we'd create a new software, but I'm not an expert in programming, right? So, but I knew that I need to find someone who can fit with this goal, and I found it. Then I found a researcher. So you need to take a look around who is around of you and who want to help, who has the same mission to help in this case, and aligned with that is like, okay, let's collaborate together, let's combine knowledge, because before it was more like like very individual, and I think like now it's totally different. We need to collaborate to go to success, and even everyone here, even if we have competitors, we need to collaborate to make more stronger the ecosystem. And then, Leslie, I think the other important part is focus in a problem, a real problem. Like maybe your idea sounds good, but if the problem is not good enough, you are wasting time. So focus in the problem, and if it's a social impact, even better.
It's difficult being third and last. Gosh, those are really good answers. I think I would echo largely what they said. I think for me personally, what led me to where I am now is largely following what was interesting. So we go into grad school often, and we choose a topic, and then that's what we have to do day in, day out for X number of years. Then you come out and you say, what am I doing next? And it's, postdoc and so forth. So for me, it was, if you had asked me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, would I be doing what I am? I would say no way. So it's really following your passions and aligning it with your values. So choosing what you're really passionate about, whether it's older adult care, for example, for me, and then technology, because I feel like they don't often aren't the population most people think about. And then just following that and letting it really lead you to a career that you almost create for yourself as a niche. I think the other thing is exactly what they said, collaboration, intersectoral collaboration. I think to be able to create anything, you need at least four partners. One being researchers, two being clinical team members, three being industry, and four being lived experience partners. So if you don't have all these folks, you're going to end up creating something, having a research question, having a medical need. That's just not going to, translate to something that's actually usable in the real world and can be used for real impact. So I think that's really important. So just come say hi to people, chat with people. We met at a conference and here we are. It's a really small world when you actually step into it. And so it's mostly friendly. Like I've never had an interaction where, I've wanted to talk to someone or I've chatted with them for an idea and they said, sorry, I don't want to talk about more ideas. Like people are excited. Like that's the point. That's why we're here. And so, yeah, just go up and say hi and chat and go from there.
Good life advice. Audience, anybody home here?
Thanks so much. So I'm one of those PWLEs, persons with lived experience. I'm really passionate about this. This is really exciting. And it's nice to hear about students, because I used a student once to create something because I could not find it in the market in electrical engineering. So is any of this work being done with people with visual impairments, cerebral visual impairments?
So there is a Meta. So it's not Meta, it's a company from US who focus for this impairment, visual impairments, and they associate with Meta. So now with the AR goggles, now you have the AI and you can really like have someone like you decide to see what you want and they can give you and help you. Let's say if you want to choose something, I call like my brother and my brother will see what I want to show it and they will help me to decide. But then now also with the new computer vision cameras, then they will recognize what you are asking and they will give you the right so there is an evolution for the first, like with the Ray-Ban Meta goggles, they associate and did it with the cameras and chatting with other ones. So there is something in meta that you can find. Yeah.
Really interesting talk, guys. Thank you. I had a question. Based on your individual journeys, what are the major challenges that you face in bringing new solutions into medicine and a healthcare system? And the second part of that question, my question would be, what are the opportunities to bring those solutions off-site to be exercises or therapies that you can apply for unsupervised settings, such as like in an old folks home, for example, where you have a lot more space. You're not restricted by use cases, and there might be some interesting applications.
That's a really good question. Yeah, no, that one's routine. Yeah, that's a really, really good question. You're right. It really depends on setting. With hospitals, medical settings generally, there can be, red tape, lots of approvals, research ethics board approvals. A lot of them are for good reason. For example, we want to have research ethics approval before we do, a project. But oftentimes it's also about the vision and people understanding, technology is here. It's good if we embrace it, learn where to use it, identify the ideal use cases and work with it instead of saying, no, and then having to kind of catch up and be in that setting. I think I've been very fortunate. So I'm based at St. Mary's. They've been extremely, extremely supportive. Any clinical team member I ever talk to and say, I have an idea, they go, sure, let's talk about it. Absolutely, how can we help you? So it really does depend on the setting. Yes, there's still limitations. It's really dependent on what the product is. So if we want to assess something that's, requires a high degree of physical ability, geriatric acute care might not be the best setting. So to me, it's not about the technology first, it's the need and the person first. In that case, yes, we would look to community-based older adults living at home, living in, long-term care, living in a retirement-based setting. We do a lot of work with that as well. So that's where you really can utilize your connections with community partners and individuals with lived experiences to identify what's the right population, and let's go out and test this and that. So we have a lot of experience with that. If you have specific questions, I'm happy to answer those because we do that on a daily basis. Yeah. Did that answer your question, though?
Well, in terms of the challenge, I think the main one is the adoption. Adoption is the challenge, aligned with that. And I think now also we are doing a lot of efforts to educate and make awareness, not only for the professionals around of us, also the community. I think is key. What you also this is a challenge of adoption, where we have to create our own implementation plan to facilitate the adoption of innovation to healthcare providers. So this is a double challenge. We are creating the technology, we are creating the methodology, and we also need to create the implementation plan to make it easy to them, because this is a niche, it's new. So I think that's a big challenge. And then I think the education is the best way to take it out of this specific space. So we can share this with universities, with the pre-grade, post-degree. So there's a world how we can put out this to students or the community. Yeah.
Okay, so regarding the first question, the challenging in implementing a new technology, in this case in education. The first, so you can always have people who are enthusiastic and some who are not. But almost everyone will expect that whatever you implement works as well as what they are already using. And what we have works very well. However, you have to think about it, our educational tools change and improve over a period of 50, 40 years. So this is realistic. my suggestion and what we did was to focus on a specific questions. So we are not expecting our tools, in this case VR, working perfectly for everything. We want to see if it works in a specific environment or answering a specific educational questions, and then comparing to what was the gold standard. We were lucky, it worked well. And this can be, it doesn't need to be to remove, in this case, mannequin simulation from out of our toolbox. It's just a replacement. So instead of being here in Canada, if we are in any other part of the world where you can't really bring a mannequin, you can bring your goggles, and maybe you can teach this piece of education to somebody else. This is the game. The second question regarding how to do it outside, well, the idea is using these technologies to make it more available, and so actually outside the university. And I'm talking about something that is very specific in anesthesia, but if you look around, there are, this also was a study published in a very well-known journal. They were trying to use a very simple VR on the smartphone with handmade goggles to teach CPR to bystanders, which they will be fantastic because it's very hard to teach everybody on a very life-saving skills. And this is the goal, is to widen the users of this technology.
Okay, I think there's one more question in the back. I want to be conscious of time so we can take that, but if anybody, it's okay.
Hi, thanks everyone for the wonderful talks. That was all really interesting. The question I have is with regards to the technological limitations and frustrations that you guys have run up against while doing your studies or your research or your therapies. What part of the technology has frustrated you the most? And if you could dream up any solution you wanted, what would be the most impactful for helping you guys do what you do?
You start first.
No, you too.
That's a really good question. I mean, I think it's specific to what we're trying to do with that specific study or intervention. Some of the things that we have to often consider is hardware is very difficult to change. For there to be a change in hardware will take years and lots of time. So, I mean, I'm going to say some broad things that are not specific to any device, but like the heaviness of it, right? The comfortability. For us, we work with an older adult population, so how long can they wear it without having any motion sickness or other simulator sickness? Those are all important considerations, irrespective of the device that you use. Cost, Wi-Fi requirements. Not everyone has very high-speed internet, and you need that. Some of the ways that we've mitigated, especially for the studies that we do in-home remotely, is to download the content right onto the device so that they don't need high-speed internet to get a good quality experience with the content. They would still need the Wi-Fi, for example, to Zoom or WebEx with us and so forth, but that helps to kind of make things a little bit more accessible. And then we also like to try to keep our content available to them post the study as well. But if I could design anything, I think I would really like to design hardware that's a little bit more friendly for older adults. It's something that can be, I mean, for everyone really. Everyone wants a lighter headset, something you can wear more comfortably. I think I'd also like something that connects better with caregivers so that they can interact with it. And I'd love to create interventions just because I'm not from a technical background. So I'm surprised and I'm glad I've been able to learn how to do what I've done already in VR, but I don't see myself learning to create applications, but I would love to do that where we can actually create something they can interact with, right? Because right now a lot of what we've given them is really something they can sit back and enjoy, but they can't interact with it actively. I'd like to do that and then also create something where it can be personalized for them, right? So that they can actually go in and based on their own preferences really get an experience specific to them whether it's cognitive training, other things, that can get more difficult as well. So if you have ideas and you're working on things, come talk to me later. But yeah.
Well, I think in terms of the hardware, that the big challenge is the connectivity. So everywhere, every part of the world where I'm presenting and I want to connect this, and there's like a limitation for the 5G. I'm still waiting 5G in the world. I don't know where is it, but they say it, but there's not. So I think one of the things I would like to keep improving is the connectivity. And that's why we are also looking for partners with telecoms. So we are trying to fix the problem with them. And then in terms of the hardware will be improving. They are improving in terms of the lightness, in terms of the quality. So there is a time now, it's a few years to get the AR goggles with holographic and mixed reality. So there's coming. So I think it's next 3 years we will get that. And then in terms of what we dream, and we are now creating also a speech therapy solution. So it's pretty cool to work in linguistic and communication, and with augmented reality or mixed reality also will be fun to have that and have the chance to interact. Yeah.
So from my side, there were two big frustrations. One was related to when I was trying to gather information to see before starting the project. And it was, the difficulties were three. First, there is a lack of universal definition of extended reality, augmented reality, mixed. A lot of confusion out there, so it's hard to compare the studies. Some of the studies are not compared to what you usually do. Let's call it gold standard, if probably the gold standard doesn't exist, which makes it also harder to understand the value of an innovation. And the third was that most of the time these devices were tested on people who were not the intended users. Simple like a medical school, a medical student trying to do an epidural is unrealistic. Epidural is done only by anesthesiologists, just to give you an example. In developing the software, the big frustration was that the first day I talked with this company, I went there as I go every year to my accountant. I understand nothing about taxes. I give all my papers and say, do the job. And I did the same with them. I want to this device, I want this scenario that has to work from A to Z in 12 minutes. That's not realistic. You need to understand the limitations that the developers have, and they have to understand what you need, which is very hard for people who have been working in medicine or in their field for a few years. It will be easier for you guys because you are more technological than us. But communication, it is a big problem. You need a person that understands both worlds because they are completely different.
Okay, we have a few minutes left. There's a Zoom question, but I want to be, I know you have to head out. We've been gracious enough to give us an extra 10 minutes, so I want to say thank you and head on out. Don't feel bad, thank you. And then we'll go to the Zoom question.
Wonderful. So thank you again, first of all. That's it, a wonderful round of applause. And then this question is from Catherine Wang, and they ask, how can healthcare professionals join the VR movement, speaking as a future physio?
I so want to answer that question myself, but I'll pass it off first.
Well, can you say again the question?
How can...
I think, so there is a few initiatives. I think the first is start to read about VR and the benefits. So we were doing today an introduction to open the eyes of where you can apply and use these tools. And then I think there is a few workshops based also from supported by McGill, where you can start to learn how to apply it. Then also you can contact us, and we are now also helping and providing. We have the research and we are in a collaborative way to share the information to train, and we are expecting, now we are organizing a course, a certification in Chile, then in Europe, and then I expect to also have that chance here and start to share all the knowledge and the integration.
I'm going to have a bold sentence because I asked everyone to be bold, but just the fact that you're asking that question as a future healthcare professional means you're already part of the help. Many people are very old school, especially in hospitals. They're still using paper and pen, and technology scares them. So just the fact that you're open to it, but as Nico said, really engaging, interacting with people, and being curious is such a great start for XR. Put a headset on. I almost always know immediately when someone has put a headset on or not when I'm talking to them, because once you put it on, you get it. Which leads me, which wasn't the plan, but into a question I was going to ask you if nobody else has one. If you do, you get priority. Okay. We put headsets on people all the time, and they either love it or they hate it. Do you have any reason or explanation of why you think such a divide? There isn't really usually a middle ground. Maybe this is just my personal experience, but they get it, they love it, and they want to use it, or they really it's not for them. So is there any kind of insights in your experiences of when people have done the training or they've done the rehab, why they really engage more with it or not?
Well, I was lucky enough to work with trainees, they are young, so they all love it, and it was interesting to see that we did actually a study with 30 trainees, and only 2 of them had an experience with VR. But anyway, those who tried, they love it. They actually found it extremely fascinating, despite the limitations. In general, I would say, if you take the entire population, I believe there is a portion of people who really need and like to be in control. And new technology, especially VR, put you outside your comfort zone. It takes time to understand what you are doing, and that might be a reason.
Yeah, I think one of also the part there is the same what we are saying in terms of the headset. Now there is a better quality and resolution. Now there is mixed reality. So cyber sickness was the first. No, I want to have and then we push it. No, try it 1 minute, and it's with mixed reality. It's new glasses. So I think that was the first things came up. But I think now with this novel technology, you can push them and they try it. But I think I have a lot of meetings with doctors and neurologists, and they hear about the phones as a VR, and they have really not good experience. So now we need to change that to now it's different. It's not a phone. It's another technology, and it's improve it. So yeah, I think that's us.
Last question. Home, in person. They've been generous enough to give us extra time. Nobody? Going once? Going twice? Sold. Okay. So some new faces since I did the introduction of how the next section is going to go. So I'm just going to stand up because it's a lot of talking for me. Is that going to be a problem? Okay. Okay. So first of all, thank you guys. Appreciate everything. Let's give them a round of applause. And Dr. Harmehr. Again, I want to thank the whole Force-Space team that I've been making baseball signs and talking with behind the scenes. I have no idea if I was on camera for any of that, so if I was, I apologize. To use at home, if you're watching it live or watching it later, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I hope it was everything that I got out of it and that you wanted. And for those of you in the room, thank you for attending. There is still food in the back, and I think some cold coffee if you want an iced coffee. And the next part is going to be open floor concepts. So no more talking unless you're talking to a person, yourself, and trying everything out. So in this area, we're going to make it, we haven't decided exactly how it's going to work, but I've got my headsets that we're going to set up for the VR tennis to have some matches that we're going to stream on the TVs, assuming it works. So literal, physical VR tennis matches. And then in between, I also have my startup if you want to experience some rehabilitation and some physical activity with sports. I don't know exactly where everyone is in this room, but my best guess from when I saw before, we've got the Tech Sandbox and McGill XR and Eco Canvas in the back. So that's going to be some AR, tabletop gaming, some, I'm brain farting, McGill XR, I don't know actually everything. You guys, I'm not sure exactly the experience, but they've got a bunch of different prototypes. And then the spray painting for mental health, for virtual reality experience for mental health and calming. And then over here is the Kinesex and Elysium, which is the AR and the rehabilitation for neurorehabilitation. And then we've got the augment therapy, which is AR over there with eConcordia and the surgical training. And I don't think I missed anybody. That's it. So without further ado, we can all get up, stretch our legs, do some physical activity. And thank you all so much for coming. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steven. And just a note for people joining us on Zoom, we're going to be closing up the Zoom and the live stream now, but this conversation remains available on our channel. And for those of you in the space, stick around.